Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm sure you've heard the name before, and you've definitely heard of the new game, Security Breach. Made by Scott Cawthon, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is a final hurrah to his franchise before stepping down from lead development. So how do you go from sitting in a room staring at cameras and messing about with two doors, to a sprawling mega pizzaplex with free roam, an in-your-face story, and about 13 hours of gameplay on your first playthrough with multiple endings? Well, that's a video for another day and maybe for another person, but today, we'll be talking about how highly anticipated Security Breach was, and how, overall, it was a letdown. This video will be split into 5 parts. I'll focus on story, presentation, gameplay, glitches, and finally, cut content. But presentation will always be the most important part of a game. So how does this game present itself? Confidently. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is extremely confident with itself when it comes to presentation, starting you off with this very beautiful visual that proudly shows off the new characters as well as parts of the pizzaplex itself, going as far as to even begin the story rather than working as just a character introduction. And after this, it goes a step further, bringing these beautiful visuals into the game itself, making Glamrock Freddy look absolutely astounding, and once you get out of the room it just keeps going. The pizzaplex looks beautiful, and so do all of the animatronics. Every character has their own neat, intricate design that makes them stand out except for the staff parts. The pizzaplex also feels like it could be a real location, like Disney Quest merged with Chuck E. Cheese, the natural next step for something as big as Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. The main parts of the pizzaplex looks incredible, and the only thing that feels out of place is the daycare. However, if you're playing a Five Nights at Freddy's game, then you should be willing to suspend your disbelief.
The story of a time-traveling ball pit.
With that being said, let's talk about the characters, shall we? The second we start the game, we're introduced to the 4 new animatronics: Montgomery Gator, Roxanne Wolf, Chica, and the world-renowned Freddy Fazbear. Roxanne, or Roxy, is the replacement for Foxy, which is clear from her design and name alone. Chica is the same as she's always been, just with a redesign. And Monty is kind of like classic Bonnie from FNAF 1. He just plays the guitar alongside Roxy. Freddy Fazbear has also been redesigned, with the best design out of any of the characters in this game, given a star on his face and a beautiful brown finish. Glamrock Freddy is who you'll be spending most of the game with, even using him for a few of the game's endings. We also have our friend William Afton, returning for what feels like the 10 billionth time. You know what they say, he always comes back. Somehow, he managed to survive the FNAF 6 pizzeria burning to the ground and his trip to hell, and now he's out to get his revenge once again. But there's also some new characters in this game. I'm sure you've seen the TikToks, but in case you haven't, let me introduce you to Sundrop. Do you need to go to the bathroom but you can't bring your kid along? Drop them off at the Mega Pizzaplex Daycare with the all-new, all-cheery Sundrop, who will babysit your kids for you. And if it gets a little late, he'll even make sure to keep the kids safe. Just don't let it get dark in there, because our friend Sun just can't stand the dark.
No! Why would you do that? Lights on! Lights on! I warned you! I warned you! Naughty boy. Naughty boy. It's past your bedtime. You must be punished. Nighty-night.
Before we get there, we can't talk about gameplay without talking about Freddy, because Freddy is one of, if not the biggest part of the game. You are introduced to Freddy's mechanics in this game pretty much the second you're allowed to do anything, and what you can do is pilot Freddy like a mech. A lot like today's sponsor, War Robots, where you pilot mechas. No, I'm just kidding. But you do actually pilot Freddy around, fully moving him yourself, and even using him to get into places you wouldn't be able to get into otherwise. His mechanics aren't the most advanced in the world, but for the first free roam Five Nights at Freddy's game, they're more than acceptable. Freddy is also your main companion in this game, telling you where to go and how to get there, including what you need to do before you can go somewhere. like how to get the daycare pass, which allows you to get into the daycare. Once you're in the daycare, you get a security card as well as the flashlight, but when you do, it turns the lights off and causes sun to change to moon. This begins what I believe to be the single scariest encounter in this entire game, which isn't saying much because this game doesn't try that hard to be scary. However, with that being said, this segment with Moondrop is undoubtedly the scariest in this game and feels like what this game should have been. You running around with some hints as to what to do, constantly knowing you're being chased but never know where those animatronics are. This is by far the best segment of the game, without a doubt, really, filling you with fear, dread, and terror. All the while, you need to think about where you have been and where you are going. Assuming you get no glitches here, it will remain in your head as the highest point of the game. Throughout the game, you will get a couple of items. Before fighting Moondrop, you will get that flashlight, which lets you see things easier but runs out of battery rather quickly. This is used to help you actually see things, but doesn't serve any other purpose. The two other items are for self-defense. One of them is called the Phaser Blaster, which is collected after winning a game of Phaser Blast, a capture the flag game where you fight robots. Once winning, you get to collect a golden Phaser Blaster. This is used to stun any animatronic by shooting them. You can also use it to stun the staff bots, but you have to shoot them directly in the eyes for it to work. This is where one of our gameplay problems shows its ugly head. For some ungodly reason, by default the gun won't have any reticles, which makes it extremely difficult to shoot the animatronics and damn near impossible to shoot the staff bots. For some reason, the reticle is hidden in the game's settings. I don't know why, because I had no idea that I could even have a reticle in this game. I had to use a built-in reticle thing on my monitor just to beat Phaser Blast.
Okay, can I have a crosshair, please? And can I not be a lefty? How do I get a crosshair in this game? Is there no crosshairs in this game? Oh, reticle, there we go. Apply changes. Oh, that's nice.
On the other hand, however, there is the Phascam, collected by simply going into the staff room in Monty Golf. No gameplay actually required to get this one. The Phascam is the same thing as the Phaser Blaster, but instead of having multiple shots that you have to aim, it has only one shot and it's a very large area of attack shot. A fair trade-off, so one isn't significantly better than the other. They fit two different playstyles and I think they were the best parts of this game, mechanically at least. This game also has some boss fights and they are rather odd. Chica's boss fight has you finding some mix, turning on a generator and throwing Chica into the trash. Then playing hide and seek while you try to find some generators and get back up to the Pizzaplex so that you can upgrade Freddy by giving him Chica's beak. The other boss fight you can encounter is against Montgomery Gator, or Monty. This is a relatively good boss fight in which you have to shoot a bunch of heads with balls until a meter fills up, and then you fucking crush Monty. He dies. Fucking gone. No more Monty. You take his claws and that's it. Not a lot happens here sadly, but trust me, when I get to the ports of this game, I swear you will hear some outlandish things you have never heard me say before. And just wait until we get to the end, because believe me, I have something huge to say about this game. The next boss, Roxy. She is a wolf who doesn't feel like she measures up, and I understand why given this boss fight. The idea is interesting, sure. It's interesting seeing a boss fight that relies on the sounds you make, but because of the pathing that this small room has, it gets iffy. The idea is that when you will play a sound, Roxy will hear it and lunge towards you, and you will jump out of the way so that she can break the door. That way you can easily move to the next room. The issue is, it's just outright boring. Playing it, the only fun I had was from the glitches, but the boss fight itself is just incredibly boring to the point where there's no fun to be had. It starts after you've run a train on her just like I did with your mother the other night, and you grab her eyes. That's the whole reason it's sound-based. Then there's the last fight you will experience in this game. The true ending will have you go down to the Five Nights at Freddy's 6 pizzeria and turn on a bunch of generators. When you go down, you'll see the blob, an entanglement of all the animatronics that were burned at the end of Pizzeria Simulator, except for one. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, after being burned 3 times and going down to hell, Afton has returned once again because he decided he was done being a Trojan on the internet and he is a person once more, lol. This boss fight has some of the most interesting gameplay mechanics out of the entire game in my opinion. You can't stay inside of Freddy for too long because William is gonna hack him, so you have to stay on your toes and go around pressing buttons. It also keeps up with the original games, having 2 doors on either end where animatronics will attack from. Then there's a vent that Monty will climb through and attack you from like the imposter from Among Us. Then, sometimes, the blob from above will throw his tentacles down, and if you don't react fast enough, you'll die. To deal with them, you have to get inside of Freddy and then immediately they will leave. When Roxy comes, you just get in Freddy and use Chica's voice box to scare her off. And finally, when Chica and Monty come, you just need to close their respective doors so that they can't get in. This boss fight is honestly the only one that really feels like a boss fight except for maybe Monty, but that one is a bit iffy. This boss fight, however, with William Afton leads to my biggest problem with all of Security Breach. The storyline. It sucks. There's no other way to put it. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach ruined the storyline. The game starts off making sense. Freddy malfunctioned on stage and apparently Gregory climbed inside of him, thus causing him to malfunction. Then, Gregory is stuck in the Mega Pizzaplex and he needs help to get out and Freddy decides to help him. Everything in this game makes sense so far, and it will up until any one of the endings. The endings all make perfect sense, except for the canon one. In Pizzeria Simulator, if you manage to salvage every single one of the animatronics then beat the game, you will be given this perfect ending.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
Then, in Ultimate Custom Night, or UCN, you play as William Afton in hell, paying for all of his sins. Then when he dies, his consciousness was uploaded to the internet as a virus. Sure, you know what, why not? Crazier things have happened in the Five Nights at Freddy's storyline so far, so whatever. But how the hell did he return back into his human form? And why are all the animatronics still alive but burned together? And how in the world is the FNAF 6 pizzeria still in such a good condition when we saw the entire thing burned down like my grandmother when she got cremated? This ending is so upsetting, seeing how it just deletes everything important that happened, and it's so annoying. The main plot is fine, but the ending just ruins the entire game. If you want a more in-depth analysis as to why this is the case, there's a video that will be linked in the description. But there's one other big problem with Security Breach. What in the world is this? I can't stand this, and the PS4 graphics are terrible too. I've been showing you footage of the PS5 and PC versions of this game because that's what this game should look like, but just to prove my point, the rest of this segment will be using footage from the PS4 version of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, unless I can't find footage of the glitches. Also, this is mostly just my opinion here. I'm sure someone got a perfect run-through with no glitches and good graphics, and to that person, enter the lottery. You have better luck than the president. Now back to the game. Security Breach is just straight up unplayable at moments, and the fact that ray tracing does this to the game, it's baffling. For a game that came out on PS5 and PC, it clearly was too ambitious to use what it was given to its fullest potential. It looks like someone just sparkled the entire map. There were times where Freddy got me stuck in a room and I couldn't do anything about it. There was also one point in the game where I accidentally jumped getting inside of Freddy and I was banished to the Shadow Realm, absolutely demolished. I've tried to speedrun this game and this glitch helps a lot, but when you're just playing and you accidentally misclick, it just isn't fair, man. And yes, I'm aware that it's dumb to whine about things being unfair, but when it has taken 2 years to make this game, I expect the game to work. I paid $50 for this game and was met with glitches, some of the worst gameplay of all time, and disappointment. It's 2021 and this game peaks at 30 FPS. That's not an issue for me because I don't mind 30 FPS games, but when it runs at an average of 20 FPS, I can tell, and oh boy, the Monty boss fight. I've gone through it twice now. The first time it took me about an hour because the game decided it needs to run at 3 to 5 FPS the entire time, and it was just so infuriating in fact that I almost had to take a step away from the game, which I rarely ever have to do. That is not a good thing. The second time I played it, Monty just crashed. His AI stopped working, which is the opposite of my first time, because the first time I went through the Monty boss fight, he was coming after me more than he was supposed to. He was always on my ass. It wasn't fun at all. The boss fight is a cool idea. I can admit that. But when it runs like that on a PS4, a system a lot of us are still using, it isn't fun. It was a long wait of almost 3 years to get Security Breach, and what we got clearly wasn't what was originally intended. Security Breach is not a traditional Five Nights at Freddy's game, and it doesn't try to be. It's not scary, and at times it feels like the game is meant to be watched rather than actually played. It's a FNAF game, but at times it doesn't even feel like that. It just feels like a fetch quest that has occasional jump scares, a terrible layout for the animatronics, a terrible story, and is nothing more than, look at what we can do now. It spits on the face of the games that come before it and the fans that have been around since 2014. I was skeptical when I heard of the release because of how good FNAF 6 was. I quit playing after Ultimate Custom Night. That seemed like the natural end to the Five Nights at Freddy's storyline. But the more I saw and heard about it, the more interested I got, and I was genuinely excited to see this game. Truthfully, I wanted Security Breach to succeed. I wanted a new game that could set up a new generation of kids to experience this awesome story that I've been growing up with for almost 10 years now. Things were getting cramped and it seemed like Help Wanted had started to take a step in a good direction, but now it's clear that my dreams are crushed. And yes, it is upsetting. Seeing people like my sister and my current boyfriend defend this game is saddening. They clearly don't see how things are supposed to come out, or more likely, they love the game so much that they don't want to admit that the game shouldn't be like this. I understand that too, truly. It is hard to admit that this game is a letdown, and the fact that MatPat is probably right, that Gregory is a robot rebuilt version of the crying child and that Michael Afton is possessing Freddy, it's annoying. Like I said, my hopes were high for this game. I was expecting a good FNAF game that would fully cap off the franchise possibly, but this didn't deliver. It gave me something I didn't even realize I was afraid of. It brought the Aftons back and it just kept the story going. Yes, this game does have fun parts, but I cannot encourage someone to buy this game. In complete honesty, it doesn't feel like the right thing to do. It just isn't. So my final opinion on this game? I mean, damn. It's a fun game, but the endings brought everything so far down that it's not fair. I want to tell you I like this game, and I do. I like aspects of this game. But as a Five Nights at Freddy's game, it's disappointing. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach was nothing more than a glorified letdown. I want to give a big thank you to everybody who watched this video all the way through. You're a real one. This was a long video for me to make, even though this video isn't that long. I mean, just look at this timeline, guys. It's rough. But seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like or comment, as it really helps the channel out a lot, and consider even subscribing. It would mean a lot. Also consider checking out my other videos. Anything that's not a Let's Play or a stream, I would suggest checking out. My favorite videos are these two that are on screen now, so check those ones out if you want to. A huge thank you to my boyfriend, my friend Elijah, my other friend Eden, Scooby, and my friend Hunter. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.